With the announcement of a new Star Wars film series coming from Game of Thrones TV show creators David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, a fair amount of people have been starting to ask, how much Star Wars is too much Star Wars? So today, I'm here to address those concerns and tell you why I am as excited as ever to dive even deeper into our favorite galaxy far, far away. At least 7 movies are officially confirmed to be in some state of development, the first of which being Solo, a Star Wars story, coming this May. The undeniable fact here is that Star Wars itself turned 40 before we got a grand total of 9 movies. You know, the 9 that mattered anyway. And it's very likely that we'll be getting these 7 within the next decade, in one single decade. And that doesn't even count all the books and like stacks of comics that will likely be rolled out alongside them. And that is a lot of Star Wars. But before we start screaming from the rooftops that Disney has ruined our sacred franchise, let's remember a couple things. Star Wars has always been about the Skywalkers and the time period surrounding the Galactic Civil War. Hell, it's so central to what we know about Star Wars that the Battle of Yavin was chosen as the epoch from which dates are measured before and after. And even though the Skywalker bloodline is largely absent from Rogue One, the movie ends with the reins of the series being literally handed to Princess Leia, setting up the entirety of Star Wars continuity as we know it from that point on. So maybe it's time for us to let the galaxy's most troublesome family just go away. I mean, just think. Maybe with the Skywalkers gone, the whole debate about what makes a Star Wars movie can just kind of like fade away into the past. And then maybe we can start to disassociate the brand Star Wars away from the Skywalkers. And while that may be a tough thought to digest, let's just remember that although the Skywalkers may be one of the worst, and at times one of the best things to ever happen to their galaxy, they cannot be the only story worth telling. Speaking of stories, maybe it's time to start accepting Star Wars as a genre, or a setting, for subgenres and other stories to take place within. Solo, for instance, has been described as part Western, part film noir, and part heist movie by Lawrence Kasdan, the man who, along with his son John, wrote it. Rogue One is the closest thing Star Wars has to an actual war movie that managed to ditch the operatic Skywalker drama and deliver a different feeling movie that some people even claim is one of their favorites. The book Lost Stars by Claudia Gray is an in-universe example of a good love story told within the confines of Star Wars canon that is absolutely worth a read if you haven't checked it out yet. Every time I think about that rumored Kenobi movie that has yet to be officially announced, my mind drifts to the idea of it being a Star Wars version of Logan, playing off Obi-Wan's years of isolation on Tatooine, except maybe with a couple more flashbacks and a little less blood. Not that it bothers me, I just don't really see that happening. I just really want to see more Duchess Satine. My heart. Maybe we'll even get an Indiana Jones or Uncharted-inspired Dr. Aphra movie. Yeah! I wonder if anyone at Lucasfilm knows anything about those Indiana Jones movies. They should really check those out. And though some people may argue that the prequels are horrifically bad, they're not technically horror movies, and that is something we could potentially get. I mean, the possibilities are just endless. With new creators come new ideas, and we benefit from this by having writers and directors who grew up with and love the series as much as we do. Very little is known about Rian Johnson's trilogy, other than the fact that it'll explore new characters and new places that Star Wars lore has never explored. But that's exactly what we need. We need more planets to actually dig down into and explore, and we need more characters than just the archetypal chosen ones. Think about it like this. No matter how bad it is or could possibly be on planet Earth, on the opposite end of the Milky Way, there would not be a single whimper of a whisper heard about it. Star Wars covers an entire galaxy, large chunks of which are either mostly or completely unexplored. And they're always finding new planets, and they're like, hey, I mean, we know that one's there, but I'm not really sure what's up with it, man. You might want to be careful with that one. Sure, hyperspace lanes and interstellar travel are a much more viable thing for them, but it doesn't really help them understand their galaxy any more than we understand our planet. And you don't know what the dude down the street from you is doing, and he might live an awesome life. Maybe. It might suck too. I mean, I don't really know. But that could be a good story. We don't know if David Benioff or D.B. Weiss's series will be 2 movies or 20, or if they'll even be connected. Though Disney CEO Bob Iger has said that the films would be, quote, focused on a point in time in Star Wars mythology. Forgive me if this comes across as a shallow concept, but knowing their work on Game of Thrones gets me really excited for what point in time in Star Wars mythology he could be referring to, namely the Mandalorian Wars, Or what could turn out to be the canonical adaptation of that being the Mandalorian Jedi War. Well, I mean, let's be honest, the Mandalorians just... I think if you meet the Mandalorians, you fight the Mandalorians, because they say, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm a Mandalorian," and you're dead. Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy said in a press release that, quote, "Their command of complex characters, depth of story, and richness of mythology will break new ground and boldly push Star Wars in ways I find incredibly exciting." And she is not alone. There are just so many talented filmmakers that I would love to see get involved with Star Wars. And with directors not attached to most of the films slated for release, we may get to see someone like Ryan Coogler or Patty Jenkins get to leave their mark on the franchise, both of whom have recently proven that they can shoulder the burden of developing characters in standalone stories that also feed directly into their own respective universes. The same way, some of these new movies may feed into and enrich the Star Wars lore that we are already familiar with. What, Porg? When'd you get here? And while we're talking about leaving a mark on a franchise, just take a look at what Christopher Nolan did to Batman, and imagine if someone like him, or specifically him, directed a Star Wars movie or wrote a Star Wars movie. You can't tell me you don't want to see that movie, because that would be phenomenal. And as it turns out, he's actually a really big fan. Who do we need to talk to make that happen? What do you mean another Porg? Whoa! Where are these things coming from? Aww. Aww. And last but not least, the push for diversity and inclusion has always been prevalent in Star Wars, and it's become quite the hot-button issue in our society as well. So while the argument that talent and experience should be what puts a certain someone in the director's seat is true, it's absolutely true, the fact still remains that those qualifying factors can still be met and or surpassed by people that aren't just white men. Perhaps even with a certain level of nuance and intrigue that we haven't seen in Star Wars just because we've kind of always seen it from the same demographic. So before your blood starts to boil, remember this. While it might not matter to you what the race or the sex or the heritage of these new directors are, it might matter to the kids growing up, seeking heroes to look up to, and for people to inspire them the way George Lucas and his team have inspired us. And these kids will be the ones carrying Star Wars into the future, not you and I. And if Kathleen Kennedy has anything to say about it, these kids will get their heroes. And as long as the movies keep being good, we will keep getting more Star Wars. When it comes down to it, Star Wars is bigger than all of us, and it means something different to everyone. It is a self-contained universe of possibility with as many stories to tell as there are star systems in its galaxy. And sadly, it is unlikely that any of us will be the first ones to see them all. Sorry, Annie. But if Lucasfilm manages to give us new and exciting experiences every time they step up to the plate, I see no reason to give up on them now. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends. We appreciate all the support. And make sure to stop by next week. We should be having one video up every week. We have kind of revised our schedule just because it takes a little bit longer to make these videos than we really imagined, and we had nothing in a backlog, so we're kind of making everything as it comes out. But this should be a really busy month for us with all the Rebels content coming. We look forward to bringing you our coverage. May the Force be with you. I don't like porgs. Porgs are lame. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh no.